Street Albans Country Club, Queens, New York. 1948. A 53-year-old man stands on the tee box, his body ravaged by cancer, his famous frame now a shadow of its former glory. Babe Ruth grips his driver one last time. He swings. The ball launches high and true, soaring through the summer air with that familiar arc that once mesmerized thousands. But something's wrong. The ball falls from the sky far too soon, landing less than 100 yards away. Ruth stands frozen at the tee. Then his shoulders begin to shake. The greatest athlete in American sports history weeps. But 33 years earlier, everything was different. Hot Springs, Arkansas, 1915. The Boston Red Sox arrive for spring training at a place where baseball players rub shoulders with gangsters like Al Capone and hustlers like Titanic Thompson. This gambling and golf mecca would introduce 20-year-old rookie pitcher George Herman Ruth to a game that would change his life. Ruth's first golf swing was pure chaos. 6 feet 2 inches of raw power exploding through a wooden shaft. The club snapped. The ball rocketed sideways, still climbing as it sailed out of bounds. Another swing, another broken club, another lost ball. The Atlanta Constitution wrote, "When the item of broken clubs and lost balls is taken into account, golf is a pretty expensive pastime for Babe Ruth." The other golfers laughed. Here was this kid, destroying equipment, spraying balls into the woods, looking nothing like a golfer should look. But Ruth didn't quit. While others might have walked away embarrassed, he did something unexpected. He played by every rule. No gimmies, no mulligans. Every stroke counted, every ball finished into the hole, no matter how many penalty strokes it took. And beneath the broken clubs and wild shots, there was another problem. Ruth played left-handed. Before 1900, golf professionals refused to teach left-handed players. The game simply wasn't designed for lefties. It was considered improper, awkward, wrong. But Ruth had learned something at St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, the reform school that raised him. When the world said you didn't belong, you proved them wrong. When they said you couldn't, you showed them you would. His baseball swing was left-handed. His golf swing would be too. Most golf instructors saw Babe Ruth's left-handed swing and turned away. But Alex Morrison was not most instructors. Morrison taught the biggest stars in America: Bing Crosby, Jack Dempsey, Charlie Chaplin. He was known for innovation, famous for pioneering swing sequence photography by hanging a lantern from a club and swinging it in a darkened room. When Morrison agreed to teach Ruth, he became the first prominent golf professional to embrace a left-handed student. The transformation was remarkable. Morrison helped Ruth abandon his wild baseball hack and develop something closer to a true golf swing. He worked on Ruth's mechanics, his tempo, his approach. Doug Vogel, who spent years researching Ruth's golf career, later discovered the results. He got better, and he could play under pressure. Whenever the Babe teed it up, the papers covered it. Ruth progressed rapidly, from breaking clubs to breaking 90, from wild rookie to single-digit handicapper. Eventually, he reached a handicap of 5, legitimately skilled by any measure. Vogel found only one scorecard where Ruth broke 70, a 69, the round of his life. What held him back? His short game, his strokes on the greens. The final touch around the hole remained inconsistent, keeping Ruth from true greatness. But he was no longer the joke from Hot Springs. He was becoming something else entirely. January 5th, 1920, Griffith Park, Los Angeles. Babe Ruth was in the middle of his round when Yankees manager Miller Huggins approached him on the course. Huggins had traveled all the way from New York with news that would change baseball history. The Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees had agreed to a trade. Ruth could become a Yankee for $100,000, the most expensive transaction in baseball history. All he needed to do was approve the deal. Ruth looked at his ball sitting on the fairway. He looked at Huggins. "Let me finish my round." The most important career decision of his life could wait 18 holes. This moment revealed something essential about Babe Ruth and golf. Baseball was his job, his fame, his fortune, the sport that made him the most recognizable athlete in America. But golf was different. Golf was freedom. Golf was choice. Golf was the thing he did because he loved it, not because 70,000 people demanded it. When Ruth finally walked off the 18th green and shook Huggins's hand, agreeing to become a Yankee, he had already told the world what mattered most. The curse of the Bambino was born that day, but so was something else. Babe Ruth, the golfer who played on his own terms. The 1920s belonged to two golfers. One was the greatest player in the world, the other was Babe Ruth. Bobby Jones won championships. He played with technical perfection, the gentleman amateur who represented everything golf was supposed to be. When Jones played tournaments, a few hundred dedicated golf enthusiasts gathered to watch. When Babe Ruth played, thousands showed up. Newspapers covered it like the World Series. Golf became front-page news. The Associated Press documented that Ruth, playing at Woodland Golf Club in Massachusetts, drove the ball more than 395 feet. In an era when the average drive traveled maybe 220 yards, Ruth was launching 300-yard bombs with wound rubber Haskell balls and wooden shafted clubs. The news spread across America. Interest in golf exploded. Ruth played 365 rounds in a single year. He once said, "You never get anywhere in golf playing only 4 times a week." Whenever Ruth teed off, reporters followed. When he played charity events, crowds packed the fairways. Golf was transforming from a rich man's country club game into American mass entertainment, and Babe Ruth was the reason why. He became the first famous left-handed golfer in America, shattering the stigma that had kept lefties off golf courses for generations. And he did something else that would echo through golf history. Ruth taught a practice technique to Sammy Bird, his Yankees teammate known as Babe Ruth's legs, because he often ran the bases for the aging slugger. The drill involved keeping a handkerchief tucked under the lead arm to maintain connection through the swing, using the big muscles of the hips and shoulders instead of just the hands. Bird retired from baseball in 1936 and became a professional golfer, winning 6 PGA Tour events. Bobby Jones watched Bird play and declared him the very best man with a driver I ever saw. Bird later taught that technique to Jimmy Ballard, who became one of golf's most influential instructors, teaching Curtis Strange and Hal Sutton. Ruth's drill still gets used on driving ranges today. Ruth's influence was undeniable. Golf would never be the same. February 11th, 1934. Jungle Country Club, Street, Petersburg, Florida. Babe Ruth stood on the 17th tee, staring down a par 5 stretching 471 yards toward the distant green. He was celebrating his 40th birthday in the only way that made sense, playing golf. His drive launched 250 yards down the fairway. A solid shot, but he still faced 220 yards to the hole. Ruth pulled his 2-iron. The club connected clean and pure. The ball rose, carried, and kept going. It landed on the green, rolled forward, and disappeared into the cup. 2 shots, 471 yards, a double eagle. The achievement itself was remarkable. But what happened next changed golf forever. The New York Times, America's most conservative newspaper, printed an article about Ruth's shot, and for the first time in the paper's history, they used the term double eagle in their coverage. The phrase had existed in specialized golf publications since 1920, but it took Babe Ruth making one for mainstream America to accept it into the vocabulary. This was Ruth's cultural power. The New York Times didn't change its language for Bobby Jones, despite his superior skill and Grand Slam achievement. They changed it for Ruth. He wasn't just playing golf. He was reshaping how people talked about it, thought about it, consumed it. Ruth's fame created permission. When he did something, it became legitimate. When he said something, it became vocabulary. Athletic achievement matters. Cultural impact lasts forever. Words have power. Ruth proved it on the course and in the dictionary. 1939. Babe Ruth was 44 years old, 4 years removed from his final baseball game. He had waited by the phone for years, hoping someone would call and offer him a manager position. He had earned it. He deserved it. Every other member of the first Baseball Hall of Fame class had been given the chance to manage. Everyone except Ruth. The phone never rang. Baseball had rejected him. The game he transformed, the sport he saved after the Black Sox scandal, the institution he carried on his shoulders for 2 decades, didn't want him leading a team. Ruth could have collapsed into bitterness. Instead, he turned to golf. He played nearly every day. Golf became more than recreation. It became rescue. His routine was ritual. Wake at dawn, cook fried bologna and egg sandwiches, head to Street Albans Country Club, buy a steak from the butcher, hand it to the club chef, down 2 or 3 scotches with lunch, a few more at the turn, then another to celebrate the round. His daughter Julia remembered he'd still break 80, sometimes 90, but he'd break something. The scotch didn't make him play better. It made the rejection hurt less. If it wasn't for golf, Ruth said, I'd really miss baseball. That summer, Ruth represented Long Island in the Stoddard Cup against teams from New Jersey and Westchester County. After 9 holes, his team was losing badly. The match seemed finished. Then something awakened in Ruth. The same instinct that made him the greatest clutch hitter in baseball history. The same fire that produced called shots in World Series games. Doug Vogel researched this moment for years. He reeled off the best 9 holes of his life. At his best, if his short game was working, he was a scratch player. That day, when it counted, he was better. Ruth led his team to victory. The New York Times ran a 6-column headline, Babe Ruth's double victory helps Long Island capture golf trophy. Baseball didn't want his leadership, but golf gave him something else, a place where his competitive genius still mattered, where he could still be a champion. The clutch gene doesn't disappear. It just finds a new arena. For more than 20 years, Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb represented everything the other hated about baseball. Cobb played the inside game, bunts, stolen bases, psychological warfare. Every at-bat was calculated strategy, every stolen base a chess move. Ruth played the opposite, swing big, hit big, miss big, power over precision, spectacle over subtlety. They despised each other on the field. Off it, the tension simmered for decades. Then, in 1939, at the Baseball Hall of Fame inaugural weekend, Cobb issued a challenge. I can beat you at the Scottish game any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Ruth's response came 2 years later. If you want to get your brains knocked out, come right ahead. The result was the left-handed Has-Beens Golf Championship. 3 charity matches across 3 courses. Commonwealth Country Club in Newton, Massachusetts. Fresh Meadows in Long Island. Grosse Ile in Michigan. The opening moment became legendary. Instead of flipping a coin for honors, the 2 old rivals grabbed a driver and placed their hands on it, one over the other, like kids choosing teams on a sandlot. Ruth patted Cobb's bald head. Cobb looked at him with skeptical amusement but didn't pull away. They played 3 rounds. Cobb won 2 of 3, his superior short game making the difference. After the matches, Cobb mocked Ruth in the press. He looked like an egg standing on toothpicks. But then both men signed a letter together. We had one swell time at your golf club today and enjoyed our round very much. Cobb treasured the Ruth Cup trophy so much he placed it above his fireplace. Golf accomplished what 20 years of baseball couldn't. On the fairways, there were no Yankees or Tigers, no inside game versus power game, just 2 old rivals finding common ground in their struggle with the same humbling opponent. Golf doesn't care about your legacy. It humbles everyone equally. (1937) Mid-Ocean Club, Bermuda, the 5th hole. Babe Ruth stood on the tee at Cape Hole, staring across Mangrove Lake, a powerful left-handed player, confident in his ability to carry the water. He swung. The ball sliced hard right, splashing into the lake. Another ball, another slice, another splash. Stories vary about how many balls Ruth lost that day. Some say 10, others 14. The legend grew with each retelling. His playing partner, Alan Brown, later told the truth. Ruth hit several into the water, refused to move to the drop zone, tried one more powerful swing that met the same fate, then finally accepted reality and moved forward. He finished the hole with 11 strokes. The mighty Babe Ruth, humbled by a par 4 in Bermuda. 3 years later at Pine Valley in New Jersey, Ruth bet $5 with 11 sports writers that he would break 90. Day 1, he shot 85 and won the bet. Overconfident, Ruth doubled down. Let's go again tomorrow, double or nothing. He called Pine Valley child's play. Day 2 was a disaster. At the 15th hole, Ruth hid into the woods and couldn't find his way out. Frustrated, he shouted, "I don't need to know where the green is. Where did the golf course go?" He lost the bet. In baseball, Babe Ruth was a god. In golf, he was mortal. And perhaps that's why he loved it more. True champions don't fear failure. They respect it. They learn from it. Golf taught Babe Ruth humility in ways baseball never could. Street Albans Country Club, 1948. We return to where we began. Babe Ruth stands at the tee box, his body ravaged by cancer. The drive travels less than 100 yards. He weeps. Months later, on August 16th, 1948, Ruth died at age 53. More than 100,000 people came to Yankee Stadium to pay their respects. Grantland Rice wrote, "The greatest figure the world of sport has ever known has passed from the field. Game called on account of darkness. Babe Ruth is dead. But on golf courses across America, Ruth never died." As the first left-handed golfer to achieve fame, Ruth opened doors that had been closed for decades. Today, Phil Mickelson and Bubba Watson owe their careers to the path he carved. He transformed golf from a country club sport into American mass entertainment, proving that working-class kids from reform schools belonged on fairways alongside the wealthy elite. He changed the language. Double eagle entered mainstream vocabulary because Ruth made one matter. He pioneered celebrity golf, creating the template for Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, and every athlete who picks up clubs for charity today. And his practice concepts influenced modern instruction, echoing through generations of teachers and players. Ruth's daughter Julia said it best, "Daddy absolutely loved golf. If he wasn't so good at baseball, I think he would have wanted to become a professional golfer." Every time a left-handed player steps confidently to the tee, every time a celebrity hosts a charity tournament, every time working-class kids play municipal courses, they walked the path Ruth built. They laughed when he broke his clubs in Hot Springs. They stopped laughing when he broke their records. But his real achievement? He broke down walls. Between baseball and golf, between rich and working class, between proper golf and American golf. They laughed at his swing. He changed their game forever.